Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we are creating confident communication, and that's our podcast. And we have an amazing guest with us, Cheryl Knowlton, today. And Cheryl Knowlton is the CEO and Chief Energy Officer at Dynamite Productions, a certified women-owned company and consulting firm that helps people discover who they truly are so that they can communicate with others in an entirely new way, lean into and lead from their strengths, and elevate excellence in every area of their lives. She recently completed her service as the president of the Mountain West chapter of NSA. She's authored 3 books: Burn the Hamster Wheel, Stress Management Strategies for Today's Real Estate Professional, and I'm Only Half Crazy, Life Lessons Learned While Running 20 Half Marathons, and the 246 things that can go wrong in a real estate transaction. Cheryl is the host of the popular podcast, Magnifying Brilliance. And as of today, she's completed 31 half marathons. She's a California girl. Cheryl now lives in Utah with her husband and 13 grandchildren and her dog, Scooby-Doo. And when she is not traveling and speaking, Cheryl can usually be found running another half marathon and enjoying the magic of Disney theme park. Yes, she is a kid of heart. And if you're lucky, you might even catch her doing both at the same time, which we love all your Mickey decor. That's amazing. Welcome, Cheryl. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. No, thank you, Talia. I'm honored to be here.
Yes. And so I wanted to kind of start with, what all of these amazing things with your books. I mean, when did you start to feel the call to start speaking and sharing your message in confidence with everybody in this world?
On my journey to become a professional public speaker began accidentally. I was working as a wholesale account executive for a very large international mortgage company, and it was a very interesting time. I started working for them March 3rd of 2003. So 03 was my very first day working.
Oh, wow.
For them. I know, right? And I noticed a lot of inconsistent challenges and problems. And so I went to my boss. I was given a lot of leverage. I was one of only 6 in the country that had my exact position. And so I went to him and I said, I have this idea. And bless his heart, he allowed me to create a series of 3 courses to create the greater likelihood of success for our clients. And they loved it. And I discovered that I loved it. And so doing that, right about that time, the Utah Division of Real Estate changed licensing laws and continuing education requirements. And professionally, my boss was in favor of, different boss than the original boss, was very in favor of me becoming certified to teach continuing education courses to real estate agents and mortgage loan professionals. That he saw that as a really great fit and something they didn't have. And so I started doing it. And the more I did it, the more I realized I loved it. And then that started the journey of content creation. And the more I did it, the more I loved it. Lather, rinse, repeat. And here we are 20 years later.
Right. So what, you started speaking mostly, remind me, because you've got the queen, like the crown. I've always seen that around with what you're doing. What was it that your kind of the title was again? Queen, something queen.
In the real estate industry, I was given the title of being the compliance queen. And at first I rejected that. I thought, I don't want that. But then I started to lean into it and started to really love it and have fun with it. And yeah, and starting to really lean into teaching real estate professionals across the country and even in other countries how to not only get a license, but how to hold on to it, how to really serve the public and not be sued and not go to jail, ideally. But not a good career
awesome
move.
And the thing I thought was funny, I know you really well. And so I actually thought you were the confidence queen. I was like, oh, that is so awesome, because you exude so much love and confidence out of you and what you do and what you share and your passion. It's like, it's just on fire. So I would love to know just a little bit more about you so everyone else can learn a little bit about you. I mean, tell us about how you kind of gained some of that confidence throughout your life.
I'm a late bloomer in every in every area. My hero's journey in life started very, very bumpy. I was born in California in the late 1960s to two teenagers who were not able to marry. And my mother, my beautiful biological mother, had no choice, literally, but to put me up for adoption. She had no support, no help, and was threatened that they would disown her and she would have nowhere to live if she did not put me up for adoption. She waited until the very last hour of the last day before she signed the papers. And so I spent 6 weeks in foster care, as she was praying mightily for a miracle. And the miracle came, but the miracle was not that I was going to be able to stay with her. I was adopted at 6 weeks of age by two of the most angelically fabulous humans on the planet. They had been trying for 13 years to have me. I was their only child. And for just shy of 5 years, life was absolutely perfect and glorious and magical. Copernicus called and verified I was truly the center of the universe, with them and for them, and everything was so incredibly wonderful. My angel mother, my adoptive mother, all she ever wanted to do was to be a mother and a stay-at-home mom, and thankfully that was a viable option. And so our little family was just so joyful and happy until a few weeks before my 5th birthday. My angel mother became one herself. She had a very serious brain tumor that had metastasized by the time they found it, and there was nothing that they could do. And she went home to heaven. And my poor dad, bless his heart, he did not have any idea what to do. This is not what I signed up for. Holy cow, how is this happening? And he started dating again very, very quickly. And ultimately he would, if he were here right now, he would tell you that was a huge mistake. I mean, he dated some really wonderful women, and unfortunately he married the one who was not wonderful. She didn't announce until after the nuptials that she loathed and detested children and wanted to send me back to the adoption agency like I was a puppy that didn't work out. When he said absolutely not to that, she wanted to send me to boarding school in Colorado. Nothing wrong with Colorado. I absolutely love Colorado, but that was not something he was willing to do. And so the last option was that because she was going to keep her job and she was going to keep working. And he was working for the federal government as a petroleum engineer, a very demanding job. And he needed somewhere for me to go before and after school. And he fortuitously, divine orchestration, found a wonderful family with a son who was just a few years older than me, a daughter that was a few weeks younger than I was, and I wound up living with them for 9.5 years during the week. And I came home on weekends and holidays. And so I really truly started out having a both and life. I knew what it was like to be an only child, and I knew what it was like to be a middle child. I really truly had a very unusual upbringing, and I had 2 families. And if you count my biological family, and at that point I had no idea who they were or where they were, I had more 2 families. And now I adopt people. So it's great. It's fine. It's fun. So I was not confident. I was extraordinarily confident as a little girl, when it was just my mommy and daddy and I was the center of the universe. I was extraordinarily confident. But then when my stepmother entered the picture, that was the first of really truly recognizing now, adult Cheryl coming to the rescue of little Sherry. And when the adult woman shows up, the little child can be safe. And I see now that I began giving my power away to my stepmom at age 6, trying desperately to get her to like me. Everybody else had always liked me, loved me, adored me, thought I was adorable, and she was not having it. And yeah, she wasn't having it for decades. And that ultimately did change. A lot of people were like, what happened there? That got better as the years went on.
Did they stay married all those years?
They did. Yeah, they stayed married all those years. They've since both passed away. My stepmom passed away in 2008 and my dad in 2018. But that was a very bumpy start for me and it rocked my confidence. And so growing up, I really didn't feel very confident until my dad took early retirement from his job as a petroleum engineer with the federal government, and I got to come home to live. And I felt like my life started all over again, that we had pressed pause from the time I went to live with that family when I was 6.5 to the time I was 15.5. And there was this great big pause in my life. And now, yes, I get to do and be all the things, and I can go get a job, and I can have my own money, and I can buy my own clothes, and I get freedom. And that was a big turning point in my confidence level, was being able to come back home and be with my dad. That was huge.
And were you able to have, good communication with your dad and your stepmom at that time, or?
Fabulous with my dad, non-existent with my stepmom. It was still terrible. But by that time I'd stopped caring. I recognized that it was a losing battle to try to win her love and affection. And I had done it for so many years unsuccessfully that I genuinely gave up and just stopped trying and I really genuinely stopped caring. Like, I don't need your approval.
It's like that. I always say to my kids, I passed on the disease to please to you guys.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is like, when you get to a space where you realize that it's not always about you. And sometimes we can look in the mirror and see our own things. But what I've come to realize, and I don't know if you felt this way, is I'm not for all people. Not everybody's going to like me. And that's okay to get there, right? And to feel that.
Yes, and I'm still working on that. As my mindset coach would attest if he were here right now. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of childhood triggers and that I do. I love everybody unless and until they prove to me that I can't and shouldn't. And then it's, devastating and awful. But yeah, I love everybody, and I believe somewhere in my psyche, I believe everyone should love me. And there's a logical part of my brain that I know that that's not always the case. And there's a logical part of my brain that says I'm okay with it. And I now know that there's a bigger part of me that is like, I don't like that. I don't choose that. I don't want that. I want everybody to be happy. And
well, I started doing these affirmations with my kids, and there's this like song, and it's all catchy, and the little girls sing it because I have a 3 and a 10-year-old, but it says, it's okay if someone doesn't like me because I know that a lot of people love me. And it's so cute because they start singing that. And even the other day, my little cute Cambria said, Mom, these girls at dance, they don't really like me. And I know they don't, but I know other people. I know lots of people love me. And I thought, you know what? That's just like one of those things we could all say.
Yes,
I do, right? We're not for all. So did you end up just going right into real estate, like once you moved out, or how did that transition kind of happen to you on your own and speaking? And do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So given this rocky situation with my stepmom, there was a big part of me that was very eager to move out and start my own life and start my own family. And so I've always done things kind of backwards. I got approved, I got accepted to my one and only university of choice, which was Brigham Young University, and fell in love with a man that I met while he was serving his LDS mission in California, and waited until after his mission. He actually came home and got engaged to someone else. But 6 months after he got home, I felt a very strong impression to reach out to him. I didn't know his name obviously I knew his name, but I didn't know his address or his parents' name. So I called the mission home, and back, this is back in 1985. There were no privacy laws to the extent that we have them today. And they were like, oh, sure. And they gave me all this information. And so I called his house, and that started that journey. We got engaged. I flew to Utah every 6 weeks during my senior year of high school. Got accepted to BYU, thank heaven, considering, my focus was not on my academics my senior year of high school at all. And then we got engaged a few weeks after my 18th birthday. I graduated from high school, moved to Utah. We got married, and I started BYU 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Yep. So most people don't start their freshman year married, but I did. I was the smartest 18-year-old on the entire planet. And he had mentioned to me that he had bipolar disorder, and I, being the naive 18-year-old that I was, had no idea what that was, what that meant. Did not know that it was a mental illness. And he told me that he took a pill twice a day, and that was it, and it didn't affect him otherwise. And that it could potentially affect our kids, but that it really wasn't going to be a big deal. That's funny.
A lot of people know about that, bipolar, right?
Yes, a lot of people know about it now, but back then it was not talked about. It was very, very taboo, very, very hush hush, and something that was that we didn't openly talk about. And his parents certainly didn't want to openly talk about it, because there was just way too much shame and guilt around all of it, enshrouding all of it, and that's terribly unfortunate for everyone involved. Very, very happy that we now live in, that we've come so far as a society that we are more open and willing to talk about things that are hard to talk about. But it certainly did affect me. It affected our relationship. It affected our children, certainly affected my confidence. I was married to him for 14 and a half years. And so my journey into real estate started at the 12-ish year mark of being married to him. The wheels started to really come off. I had just had my fourth baby girl, my fourth daughter, and I was done. And I made the decision, with the help of my dad, that I was going to move back to California. The house was in my name, and moving. Bye. And he begged me, my ex-husband begged me to let him come with us, and that he would change and he would repent and all the things. And I prayed about it really, really hard, Talia, and it wasn't time for me to be done yet. And so I said, okay. And we were in California for 2 years, almost to the day. And a year after we were there, a friend of mine from Utah had been badgering me and telling me, I think you'd be really awesome as a mortgage loan originator. You really ought to consider this. You could work from home. You could make incredible money. We would all support you and give you everything you need. And finally, the timing was right that I accepted her invitation and started down that path as a mortgage loan originator in 1999. And in California, I had to have a real estate license in order to do that, which I thought was the stupidest thing in the history of ever, and ultimately shaped a lot of my path. And I'm, at this point, looking back at the hero's journey, I'm so excited and grateful for all of it. Not so much when we're in the middle of it.
Oh yeah.
Not excited or grateful. So I was on the retail side of lending, working with the public for 3 years. And then when I moved back to Utah, because my company was here, and felt very strongly that I needed to. And that's a whole experience in and of itself, about how strongly I was told I needed to come back, and how all the celestial dominoes lined up for me to be able to do that. And 3 weeks later, I invited him to leave. It was definitely time to be done. And so thankfully, it was the real estate and mortgage industry that allowed me to have the financial freedom that I had never had, to be able to leave an abusive situation. It changed everything for me.
That's amazing. And so you did just end up with the 4 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think
when I married my sweetheart, I got 5 bonus kids. So, but I went from being an only child to having 4 children of my own, to having a family of 9 children. Like, whoa, we're almost a baseball team here.
Well, that in its own is like how to communicate effectively with 9, right?
Yeah, intercom system and a lot of yelling. So.
Right. And I know you had kind of shared with me just briefly, but I felt like you and I resonated with, how I share out and speak about, my confidence in communication with gaining 80 pounds 5 times and having 10 pregnancies to get my children. I had no idea that you had many miscarriages. How many?
So after I married my sweetheart, my Prince Charming, Rick, in February of 2022, at the very end of the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, holy cow!
That was cool.
Yeah, we knew. I mean, my stars. We had 9 children between us, and it wasn't that we didn't have a gaggle of children. We just really wanted to have children together, and he really wanted to be able to have children with a woman who loved him and didn't think he was crazy, and and saw him for who he really truly is. And so we tried very, very hard, had 9 consecutive miscarriages. And the last one almost took my life. That was at the end of May of 2008.
Wow. I had no idea. That's one thing I hadn't heard. So I guess the message you felt was we are complete. You didn't need to do the cheaper by the dozen. Let's see, 9, you and your husband, 10, 11. That movie Cheaper by the Dozen, right? It's probably not.
Yes, that's a cute movie. We saw that shortly after we got married, and that was really cute. And we really, really wanted that. It was heartbreaking. I'd never had a miscarriage before, and it was terrible. I don't recommend. Yeah, 0 out of 10 would recommend.
And some people, yeah, they don't know until it's happened to them. And that's where, I share out, for me, every time that would happen, I would feel so broken that I turned to food again. And I would want to eat to comfort myself because I felt like, what's wrong with me? And kind of what you were saying in the timing, I realized I was supposed to eventually have a 19 and a 3-year-old, which is absolutely exhausting. And I didn't realize that I'd have my last one in my 40s, but it was absolutely orchestrated, like you said. And sometimes I'm sure that wasn't easy, but I assume you just decided maybe that wasn't the right choice to move forward on another baby, obviously, right?
Well, heaven took care of that. So yeah, it just after that tubal pregnancy that ruptured and I was 30 minutes away from dying, we just never got pregnant again. So.
And the interesting thing, I know you've shared a lot about, gosh, was it 31 marathons you've done, or half marathons?
Half. I'm only half crazy. I know you've done the real thing. I have not done the real thing. Yeah, I mean, I've done 31 half marathons. My goal is to do 60 by my 60th birthday.
Wow. So that will be, you're still young. You're still young, so you got a lot more to do, right?
I only have 5 years to do it. So yeah, I got work.
Now, what is it you feel from doing that? What does the half marathons do for you? I mean, obviously you wouldn't have done 31 if it hadn't filled your bucket or helped you be able to have that self-care, or what is it? What is it you love about the half marathons?
Well, I wrote a book about it. So I'm Only Half Crazy is specifically about my journey, and there are business application lessons for each of my first 20. I love the energy of the starting line, and I love the energy of the finish line. My personality profile, I've done a lot of research and study and I've gotten a number of certifications into personality, given my journey. Like where did I come from? I mean, yeah, that question, but where did my personality come from? Did it come from my birth family? Did it come from my adopted family? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Or is it more? Is it heaven sent? And so studying, I'm now certified in 3 different personality modalities. And I've learned about myself that I love to start things. And that shows up in a personality modality called the Pro Scan. That is the one that I just recently got certified in through our mutual good friend, Spencer Horn. But it's harder for me to finish things, and I need to surround myself with people who will allow me to get things across the finish line. So taking control of my own finish lines is so powerful for me, just personality wise, and recognizing I can't delegate this. This is for me to finish, and this is for me to do. And then I have all the medals to prove it. So.
Wow, I think part of my personality, I'm excited to keep learning from you about this because I'm working with you as my mentor. But the thing I was going to explain about that is I think that's me too. I get all these great ideas and I want to get going, and then sometimes to finish it. And I really believe when I was told that I couldn't, run that marathon, or that I was too old, or I was too whatever heavy, when I did that, there was this almost like I could accomplish anything in my life if I could get that done. And I think that's what helped me be able to, lose lose that weight, and do that 5 different times, right? Because that's maybe what you're saying. I didn't realize that piece, but just having that goal to feel like, okay, I can do this. And even if people didn't believe in myself, that I could do it, cross it off the list. So I want to learn more about that. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Let's handle that. Let's make sure that we.
So is that what you're sharing with people? I mean, not only do you help get out there and teach people with real estate you've done, but how to become a better speaker and get on stages. And I think the question I would love to ask you is, with you helping so many right now, is what is it you'd say to the one person that could resonate with your message, with where you talked about, marrying that first love and the situations you had felt with the bipolar and the kids, and then moving on to the marriage where you felt, discouraged in trying to have a baby. Like, what would you say to the one person that's struggling with whatever trials are in their life, but they're feeling called to do something greater or speak out or get out? What would you say to that one person?
Unmute yourself. If the pandemic taught us nothing else, it gave us the gift of Zoom, which you and I are using to record this very podcast right this very minute. And how many times during how many courses have I had to tell people, or even coaching sessions, unmute yourself? And just remembering that is permission we give ourselves. And we can't, the sooner we can look for that inside of ourselves and not seeking for external validation, the sooner that power starts to seep in and we start to get it and we start to feel it. And then there's nothing holding us back. It's the power of a volcano, and there's no holding it back.
Right. So even for those that feel like they don't have a voice, or that they are not to be heard, we all have something to share, right?
Absolutely. Everyone has a story to share. It's mining the diamonds in our personal stories. And ultimately, when we know one thing about this life, there's only one exit strategy, and we don't like to think about it or talk about it, and we pretend it's never going to happen, and we just keep living. But what is your legacy going to be when you're no longer here to tell your stories? Who's going to be here to tell them? And if you don't use the time that we're given now to tell your story, even if you record it on a voice memo on your phone, or voice record on your phone, or there are so many apps. You can go on to Word, for heaven's sake, and click the microphone button. There's so many ways to record our stories. It's a matter of do it one a week. And by this time next year, you'll have 52 stories recorded. And if you do that over a period of 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's the compound effect. Think of the vault of amazing stories that you'll have to share with your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews. I mean, no one knows your story like you do.
Oh, that's amazing. So what I'm hearing you say is just get on and record yourself speaking or share something. That's something I've loved, because you've been amazing to share prompts of, it's all these amazing stories coming up, memories. I mean, just name a few for a couple people that just wanted to get out and share, a couple journal prompts, just to help us kind of remember what we could share. I mean, I'm thinking back of some that you've shared with me. There's some on gratitudes and some on family traditions. I mean, if you don't know where to start, just start somewhere, right?
Absolutely. And there are books that you can buy to help you with story starters, but everything from your first job to your first date and your first love and your first pet, your favorite holiday, and any traditions that you had growing up that you've carried into adulthood, what your childhood room looked like, your favorite foods, all of that. Whether or not you love camping, where would you go on your dream vacation? I mean, just so many things that we can use as prompts to get us started.
For what you were saying about just unmute, what I'm finding with this notebook is I just come downstairs, and if I just start journaling, a lot of times so much comes up. It's like, dump it out. I want to keep writing. And it's almost like I feel like I'm moving forward when I start to express in words. And that maybe not all people are that way. I really do believe I'm a words person, but I think just writing down our thoughts and our stories and our memories gives us, it's almost like letting go so that we can receive more and we can have more. the times in my life that I've really done that. And I'm working on another book that I'm doing about creating confident communication, which is awesome. And what I'm finding is, out of the blue, when I'm doing this often, I'll have a thought or a memory or a funny story. I have these little kids that say the funniest things in the whole world. And I'll laugh because I think, what was that first word they said? Like my one son, I think he was 3 and he loved corn dogs. And he'd always say, mom, I need a horn dog. I mean, he'd say the funniest things. And I have my 3-year-old now that says the cutest little stories. And it's kind of like, if we don't write them down, we forget them, right?
Absolutely. Yes, they are treasures that are lost if we don't write them down or record them in some way.
And so what I guess I'm hearing you say in all of this is sometimes even just helping the one person, sometimes even sharing a message or just being able to speak out or unmute yourself when someone else is going through something can be so life-changing to that person. And that's my goal. And our goal here on the podcast is even being able to reach the one. So if you guys, if we can do it through having the struggles that we've had and being able to get out in the world and communicate our messages and be able to try to communicate effectively, then we absolutely know that you can too. So Cheryl, do you have any other thoughts before we close? We're just so grateful that you've been a part of this today.
Oh, thank you so much, Talia. I love and appreciate you and appreciate being able to be here and share a few thoughts today. One thing that I have loved learning more about is the hero's journey. And if you're not familiar with the hero's journey, most people, whether they love it or not, are familiar with a little movie franchise called Star Wars. And George Lucas hired Joseph Campbell to help him create Luke Skywalker's hero's journey. And it's become a book, and it's become, college thesis, what's the plural of thesis? Many theses have been written about the hero's journey. And it's the premise for my internationally accredited coaching program that I can see the finish line of that journey. And I'm so grateful and so excited. And just the recognition that every single one of us is a hero, whole and complete. And every single one of us is on our hero's journey. And it's our responsibility individually and collectively, but especially individually, to share the lessons we have learned along the way. Every one of us has been blessed and gifted with experiences, whether we loved them or hated them in the moment. I look back on everything that I've been through. I'm like, I wouldn't want to go through that again. But I don't know if I chose them or if they were divinely orchestrated, but I believe that they are divinely orchestrated to give me the experience that I needed to have in this life. And so just to make the time, find the time, it doesn't have to take a long time. For me, it's 15 minutes every Sunday. And that's my time that I do that. And I'm working on creating that vault of stories for my now 13 grandchildren, because when I'm not here to tell the stories of my parents and my grandparents, my children don't know the stories well enough to tell them. It's my responsibility to tell them.
I love that. So just 15 minutes every Sunday, you'll sit down and write. The other thought is, you're a great storyteller. I love to do that, is even having them recorded so they could hear you.
Yes.
Hear your voice. Have you done that, or just mostly the writing now?
Mostly I'm doing it on a program called Raconto. And it's a video program because I did an email prompt with my dad for a year, asking him all of these stories about your first job and your first pet, and how did you meet Bonnie Mommy, and how did you feel the day that you brought me home from the adoption agency, and all of that. And I got his words. But what I wouldn't give to be able to see him and hear him tell those stories. So video is where it's at for me.
Right. And then with new technology, it's not that hard to do. Just take a few minutes. And even those that get embarrassed to get on video, the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yep.
I'm just so grateful, because what I love the most about today's podcast is giving people permission to just share. Everybody has stories. Everybody has memories, and you have no idea how valuable some of the life lessons and the trials that we've gone through can help bless people's lives. I mean, for instance, I never ever thought that I'd be speaking and sharing some of the most painful trials and the most.
Amen, sister, sing it loud, preach.
It's been tough because sometimes I'm like, I'm a hypocrite. I still love food when I'm sad. I still sometimes feel like I wasn't complete for not being able to have all these babies. But I do believe that those experiences and what we think about what we're going through can change that experience. I do believe that if we're in the process of something really painful, and if that's you out there, that asking the question, what am I to learn from this? What is this? What is it teaching me? And even just recently, I've been going through my own personal things. I shared a little bit this morning with you, and I had a thought before the call. What if these exact experiences are helping me become even better at what I want to communicate and help other people with? When I struggle with my own kids and my own communication, maybe it's it's happening so that I can help others more, right? Because I'm learning more. Do you agree with that? Because that's just where I came to today.
I totally agree with that. And ultimately, having been through my experiences, I believe that every experience, usually the bad ones, is a fork in the road, and we can allow those experiences to make us bitter. And we all can think of people who have had terrible experiences in life and they allowed those experiences to make them bitter, or we can choose to allow those experiences to make us better.
Oh, I love that. So we choose better today. Cheryl, thank you so much. And remember, we are helping create confident communication, just one person at a time, 15 minutes at a time, and you got this. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Talia. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Love you, girl.